Welcome back, Dungeon Masters. In this video, I'll be showing you how to DM or Dungeon Master for a game on Roll20. So the first thing you need to do is to create a game. So from the home page, you can create a new game, and I'll be going over first of all how to create and set up a game. So first you want to set up a game. So in this case, I'll put example game. This tag can be left blank, but if you want, you can place anything. Like for example, I might put 5e or private. It's really optional, so you don't need to worry about that. For character sheet, scroll down, find D&D5e by Roll20, and click that. It should look something like this. Now create the game, and it'll take you to the home page. This is your home page. From here, you can view the people who have joined your games. You can change your backdrop, and you can also set up your settings or launch the game. I'll be first showing you how to set up the settings, so go to settings and then game settings. You can also duplicate your game for other players, like if you want to repeat your campaign multiple times, or you can delete your game. Go to game settings. Some of the features here are only allowed for people who subscribe to Roll20 for better stuff. I'll be showing you how to manage a free game. Alright, so for this section, this doesn't really matter unless they have plus or pro. So you can really set to yes or no, but for the majority of players it won't matter. But you can just put yes. You want to access D&D 5th edition, and do not share your compendium with others because it doesn't really matter since you're free anyways. Now, we will need to set up the character sheet template. So scroll down here. Under Roll Query, turn it into Advantage Toggle. Change Whisper Roll to Whisper Toggle. The NPC will automatically turn something in NPC. We don't really need this until maybe much later, but for now you don't really need to worry about it. Character Mancer, yes, keep that. Scroll down. These fields are useful. I find that I have them enabled because if my players have something like sneak attack, then I might want to have a global damage modifier for them, or bless, then I might want a global save and attack modifier for them. But you can leave these blank by default. Your players can turn them on in their settings if they want. Change the add character name to template to on. Keep these as compendium compatible. What this means is that you can now drag from the compendium, which I'll show you, and drag it into the character sheet, making creation of character sheets a lot faster. So keep them as compatible. Under here, these don't really matter. I haven't seen how these affect the gameplay, so ignore them. And use encumbrance as you like for your own campaign. I personally use variant, but you can also use simple or just turn it off. So, scroll down and click Save Changes. And click here to go back to your home screen. So the settings of our example game has been set up. You can also choose a file to set up a backdrop. For example, I can go to one of my files and put something here. So say I want to put that image up. Then it'll upload it for me, and it should upload in a second. In the meantime, we can also invite players by clicking the Invite Player button. There it is. You can invite player and send them the invite. Do so by sharing this link with them. Once they click on it, they should be sent to this home page and automatically added if they are logged in. So, I believe that's it. So we will now be launching the game and seeing how to work inside of here. First thing you want to do, this avatar, in my opinion, is really big and bothersome. So what I instantly do is I scroll down to here, and I turn the player video avatar size to names only. Also change chat tech from Roll20 to none, no video or audio. The reason why we're doing this is because you can just easily do it on Discord. Go reload. You can easily do it on Discord for no, like, the Discord is better, so I just use Discord instead. And doing this would just make your game slower. Alright, quickly going over the settings. From here, you can change your display name. In this case, I'll put my name. This will be what your players see in the bottom left. If you're playing with anonymous people, I don't recommend you reveal your name. Down here, these, they do various things which you can choose from. And for example, you can enable 3D dice and roll dice 3-dimensionally. So you check these and you roll dice, they roll out onto the screen like so. I personally don't have them enabled, but they're nice for flavor. It just takes a little longer to roll them. Now, covering the battle map. If you watch my other video, you should already know how to use most of these tools. But as a DM, there will be other tools that weren't here before. For example, this is the layer tool. The layer tool has 3 layers: the map layer, the token layer, and the GM layer. Using these will be important for properly managing your game on your battle map. So for the object and token layer, this is essentially the layer that players can interact with, or things that are movable, or things that are above the grid. So example of these might be walls. You might want them to be above the grid, so you put walls like that. Or tokens, which you can move them around. The map background layer is for things that you do not want to be moved. So you set this up beforehand, and once you have it set up, you don't want to move it again. So for example, it could be things like a wooden floor. Something like this you need to rescale. And once you have it rescaled, then you would go back to your token layer, and now you can no longer move it. As you can see, I can no longer move it, but I can still move these. If you accidentally put an image just meant for the background onto the token layer, you can right click on it, go to layer, and click map layer. This will move it automatically to the map layer. So now I can no longer interact with it, but if I go to the map layer, I'll see it. The final layer is the GM layer. The GM layer is hidden from all your players. So players can see the things in the map and the object layer, but anything you put into the GM layer will be hidden. This is useful for if you want to have something like maybe a character which turn invisible, then you can move them to the GM layer. Now, your players can't see it, but you can still keep track of where it is. You can also use a GM layer for things like doors. So for doors, let me find an example of a door real quick. Alright, so for a door, that's not what we wanted. Here we go. Okay, so let me move it to the object layer. And this is our door. So let's say the players are adventuring and they find a door. If you want the door to open, you can click on it and then go layer and GM layer. So that's one of the things you can do with the GM layer. This will set up how opaque GM layer is. It's just really for you because your players can't see it at all. So that's the layer tool. From the draw tool, there's one extra thing, which is the clear drawing. This will clear every single drawing that is non-permanent on the map. So this includes your drawings and your player drawings. Like I said in the previous video, these drawings are meant to be something that are impermanent. If you want to turn it into something permanent, you can select them, right click, and there should be an option to turn it into not drawing. Okay, there might not be. Okay, forget that. But you can clear drawings to take everything away. This is the Fog of War tool. I'll go back to it when explaining what Fog of War is and how to set it up. This is the Initiative Tracker tool. Now, when you click on it, then it will open a turn order for everybody in your party. So they can't have this, they don't see this tool, only you. So you can open this up whenever and it will open up for them as well. Again, double click on the top to minimize it and to open it, just like any other page. From here, you can add tokens as explained in the other video. So if I want to move this one back to the token layer, I can click on them and then roll for initiative. I'll show you how to roll for initiative a little later. So yeah, that's the turn order tracker. Once there's some units on the, oh here, right, add turn. So you right click on them and you can add a turn. And then from there you can change it. There's another way to do it straight from your character sheet, which is in the other video. So once you have everybody in the turn order, you can go to the cog and sort numerically by descending. And it should sort all the numbers from the initiative count from the highest to the lowest. To move to the next person's turn, so for example, let's say this has a turn as well, you can click the arrow and it'll automatically go to the next in line. So that's the initiative tracker. Do note that your players don't see this, so you have to manually do this for yourself. Alright, now that we're done with the battle map and the new tools, I'll go over the page toolbar. So players won't be able to see this, but as a DM, you have access to the page toolbar to have multiple different maps that you can move your players to. I'll first show you how to create a new map. Create a new page. You can name it however you like. In this case, we might call it the forest. Okay, and then we can go to page settings. Under page settings, you can set up the size of your page. You can set up a default background color. So I'll go over here real quick. And if I want to make it smaller, I can turn the width into 10 squares by 10 squares. And as you can see, now our map is very small. I can also change the background color to something else in case, like let's say we're in a cave, then I might want a gray background. You can also have a page scale, but I usually leave these as default. You don't really need to change this. Finally, you can change Fog of War. So I'll set this back to white real quick. When you enable Fog of War, your players won't be able to see anything. So if I go here and rejoin as a player, by the way, you can go here and test how your map looks like from a player's perspective. If I go here, then I would see nothing but black. And the reason why is because everything is now covered by Fog of War. So, how do you change Fog of War? Fog of War does not change automatically unless you have Plus or Pro. So you have to do it manually. Some people like to just disable it entirely, while other people can manually change it. So there's the review area, which you can use to review areas. If you hold Shift, it will lock to the grid. So if I go back to my player view, this is what my players see now. If I have a bandit in the Fog of War, they won't be able to see it, but they will be able to see a bandit inside the clear area. There's also the polygon review, which is similar to the polygon tool, in which I'm holding Shift. You can create specific reviewed areas to match your room's length. You can also hide the areas again, or reset the fog entirely. So that is the Fog of War tool. Next, I'll be going over the art library. So you probably saw me pull out items from the art library. Now the art library has premium assets which you can purchase from Roll20, or you can upload your own art. Roll20 also provides you with a couple of free assets which you can use, or you can just search it from the web. As you can see, when I searched door earlier, it searched from the web. So some of these free assets are pretty interesting, like we have images of knights which you can drag over. I'll quickly turn off Fog of War for visibility. Likewise, and you can also go to your library and upload your own things. So I'll give you an example of how to upload your own art right now. So you click to upload, you can choose a file. From your folders, you can look at tokens that you download from offline or like online or photoshopped, and you can upload it to here. Now this is a list of things you have uploaded. Do note that as a free player you have 100 megabytes limit, so be careful of how much you upload. For normal tokens, I'll say about 5 kilobytes is actually enough, so you can actually low res a lot of things and get away with it properly. Yeah, and don't delete it from your art library, because if you do, then every image with it in your games will disappear. So where can you get art? Like I said, you can Photoshop it, or you can search up image. So you search up maybe battle map forest 5e, and then you go to images and pick something you might like. Alternatively, I've seen some players use a battle map, so they have just something in general, like they go here and they change it to something, maybe something that looks like grass, right? And then they can add in tokens of trees, or they can add in this is a stroke and this is a fill, so they can add in some water maybe. Okay, that was a little weird. Like that. So they can add water like that. So some players do this. You can do this as well. Really, the style is up to you. And if you don't like using battle maps or keeping it private from your players, then you can just create a landing page that they just has a good view of, so that it's not just a white page. So to set up a landing page, you can disable the grid so that it's no longer grid, and you can bring over something that looks nice, like maybe this. Scale it up. And if you notice the dimensions of the image, you can set your page size exactly to it, and then turn it like that. And from here, you can also right click and here you can set dimensions of it. So if you know the dimensions of the image, it's really helpful. Yeah, so if you want to do it, then you can right click on the thing from your library, and you can see properties and its dimensions right here in pixels. So that's the landing page. Some people they don't want their players to have the battle map, and they just do it by word and explain it. So this will be what you would use. I forgot to mention how to move your players between maps. So this tag represents what your players see. So your players cannot move themselves between these maps, only you can. So anything you want to keep hidden, like maybe if you don't want them to see something you're doing in the background, then you wouldn't move them to where you are. If you want to move only a specific player to a different map, you can left click on where their icon is and drag it to whatever map you want. So for example, now if I rejoin this player, I will be in the landing screen, but any other player would still be in this start page. You can also move them back into the player token to reconnect them with the main group. Next, I'll be covering the journal. So the journal is one of the more important aspects of Roll20. Aside from the battle map, you can also manage characters and handouts. So to create a character, you can just create a character. It'll give you a random name. I'll just change it back to example character. From here, you can give them an avatar. So maybe I'll give him look of a merchant. Right here, it says in player's journal and can be edited and controlled by. So by default, your players won't see anything that you do here. But if you want, you can set it to all players or whatever specific player it is, and they'll be able to see it. So by default, it is a white space here. If you set it to in all players journal, there will be a blue circle here, which your players can see, or sorry, which you can see to signify that your players can see this. You can also give them the edit permission, which enables them to edit the character itself. So for their player characters, you want to give them both. But for NPCs and maybe other things, then you might want to just hide it entirely or show only to the journals. From here, there's a bio info and there's also the character sheet. The character sheet has 3 options, which is the charactermancer, which you use for complicated characters or for the players themselves, or you can create an NPC. An NPC will have a different stat block which resembles that in the monster manual, and you can manually create this. Another way you can do this is you can drag in from the compendium. So I'll show you how to do that. If you want to say, let's say a mage, there is the stat block for the mage right here, as you can see, and you drag it onto your battle map. It will open up the mage tab, as well as automatically add it to your journal. So from here, the mage already automatically has all of its stat blocks, so which is really handy, and you can just add its avatar from anywhere you want. Next, I'll be teaching you how to set up a token on the battle map. So by default, if you drag in a character onto the map, they won't have any of these things filled in. So you have to do this manually for every single character, especially player characters. Go to the settings. By default, it will already say it will represent the example character. Go here and press HP. You can type it in to do it fast. This is really the only important one. For the other ones, I can just do anything I want. Actually, I'll use the mage, since the mage already has a stat block, and this guy doesn't. So you set up its HP, and as you can see, it'll set up the HP. You can put in here 40 by default. Personally, I put the armor class and the speed. So this would be NPC speed, and this would be NPC AC. For characters, you would use AC and just speed. So once you're done with this, you can go to advanced and you can set up their player permissions. So by default, the players can't see the name unless they can edit it. So if you want all your players to see the name of it, so for example a famous or important person like a king or a queen, then you check the C button. Otherwise, then they won't be able to see the nameplate. If the nameplate isn't shown, then it doesn't even matter because they wouldn't be able to see it, or neither you. So that's what the nameplate would look like. So here I'm able to see the nameplate, but if I disable this, I can no longer. Alright. One last thing you want to do is change the bar. There's 3 different ways I've seen people want to run D&D. The first way is that the players can see how much HP exactly the monsters have. The second way is if the dungeon master wants to have the players see the bar but not the number. And the third way is to hide it entirely. So right now, by default, I can't see it at all. If I want my players to be able to see the bar, check the C tab. And they'll be able to see the bar, but not the text itself. If I want my players to see the text, then change text overlay to visible to everybody. And so now the HP is visible to everybody. This is the most important part. click on the mage, click on edit, and once you have this selected and set up properly, use the selected token. This way, in the future, you can just simply drag out a character and already have everything done for you. This is for unique characters, by the way. I'll next show you how to set up a Mook, or something that you might have a lot of. So something is maybe a boar, right? So I'll search up a giant boar. I'll bring over its stats into the journal, and I'll give it its picture for clarity. I have a picture of the giant boar right here that I'll move it in here. Okay. So move over the giant boar into your battle map. This is your giant boar. It is large, so it takes up 10 feet by 10 feet. Go here, and as usual, set up the HP, the AC. Monsters count as NPC. Let me type. Okay, not exactly, but it should be right here. So, once you have this set up, quickly turn it off. So, go back to none. Okay, I made a mistake while typing it. So go to speed, to select it to 40 speed, and then go to none. Okay. So, notice that when you select none, the stats stay there, but then now it's no longer linked exactly to the giant boar. So what that means is that in the future, if you want to have 2 giant boars, and you change the stat of one of them, so for example, if this guy takes like 20 damage of HP, then this guy won't also take 20 damage of HP. That's what would happen if you link them to the HP bar. So make sure you unlink it and change the advances you would like, and save changes. Open the giant boar, go to edit, and once you're selecting it, use the selected token. So as you can see, when I drag this guy out, he lost all of his stats. That's what happened when you don't have a default token. So you need to set the default, and now this guy will also have his stats. So now I can add him -10, and this guy won't take -10. One last thing with the journal is to navigate it, you can create folders to help sort things. So maybe I have the village 1, right? And then I'll put all the NPC from village 1. I'll put all the NPCs from village 1 in here. So to drag a character up and down in your journal, hover over their token so that 3 horizontal bars appear, and drag it. You can't drag it from the right side because then it is now selecting the token itself. You drag from the right side to bring it onto the map. Use the left side to bring them up and down into your folders. You can also, from a folder, add a character from in there, or you can add it from up here. You can also use handouts. Handouts are a useful tool to give your players access to the description of magical items or other things that you might want them to know. For example, maybe a message that they found in the dungeon, right? So you can put it in their journal so that they can see it, or you can just have it entirely private so that it's just something that only you can see. If you want to give them a note page or something, then you can give this to all players so that they can edit it as well, and then they will be able to keep track of their own notes. I'll quickly give an example of how I set up my journals. So this is my game. I'll launch the game. From the journal page, I have a folder of all the factions that I'm working with. I have a folder of each location. For example, if they travel to the grassland, they might find an Enkeg or a bandit. While if they travel to a graveyard, they might find these skeletons. Aside from locations, I also have a folder for all the players. I have a folder for each of them and a folder for each of their magical items. I copied these over from either you can copy them over from other online resources or from the compendium itself. And I also have a note page for them to keep track of any notes they might want. That should be it for the compendium. The journal. And I think that's it. There's also the toolbox which you can use, the jukebox. If you want to play music, then you can manage the audio. But personally, if you want to play music, I invite the Groovy bot to Discord or other music playing bots and have it in Discord. There are also macros which you can find out more by yourself, but they're not entirely necessary for you to use your own game. And that should be it. Exit game right here. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Ask me any questions and the timestamps will be in the description.